Lesson 7, topic Geometric Proofs, Part 2, Learning Target. I can write proofs using geometric theorems. Example 1, prove that two angles supplementary to the same angle are congruent. So we're proving the congruence supplement theorem, which is used in our Unit 2 resource sheet. So right here we have angles 1 and 2 are supplements. That's given. So that means that they add up to 180. So if angle 1 was 45 degrees, then angle 2 would have to be 135 because they are supplementary, so they add to 180. But then we also know that angle 3 and angle 2 are supplements. Well, we already know angle 2 is 135, so to make them supplementary, angle 3 has to be 45. Which means that angle 1 and angle 3 have that same measure, which means they are congruent. So after we make sense of it, we want to walk through in a logical manner to explain why it makes sense. Why is this true? So we always start off with our givens. Angle 1 and angle 2 are supplements. Angle 3 and angle 2 are supplements. So then we're going to explain what it means to be supplements. What does it mean to be supplementary? Well, it means that your angles add to 180. So we set that up and we use that definition of supplementary. After that, we can use the transitive property, as you see here in statement number 3, transitive property, because we have two different things set equal to the same thing, which means the two different things can be set equal to each other by that transitive property. Then we're going to use the subtraction property of equality. So what can we subtract from both sides of this equation in order to simplify? We can subtract the measure of angle 2 from both sides, giving us the measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 3. And since we wanted to prove that they were congruent, if our measures are equal, we can say that the angles are then congruent because of our definition of congruency. So this is to prove the congruence supplement theorem. All right, our last example here, example 2, we have prove vertical angles are congruent. We learned about vertical angles in Unit 1. And we want to prove why they are congruent. So we're given that angle 5 and angle 7 are vertical angles. You can see 5, 7, they're across from each other. They make those two V's back to back. They're those vertical angles. And we want to prove that angle 5 is congruent to angle 7. Why are they congruent? So if we look here, we can see that we have a straight line and two angles making up that straight line, angle 5 and angle 6. Those are two angles making up that straight line, making them a linear pair. So if we have a linear pair, that means they are adding to 180. So I know angle 5 and angle 6 are a linear pair, meaning if angle 5 is 30 degrees, that means angle 6 has to be 150 because they are supplementary, adding to that 180. And the same thing goes for here. We have angle 6 and angle 7 are also making up a straight line. So they would also be a linear pair. We already know angle 6 is 150, so angle 7 would have to be 30 to make that linear pair true. So you can see that angle 5 and angle 7 would then have the same measure, making them congruent. So now that we've made sense of the diagram, made sense of why it is true, we want to just walk it through in our proof in a logical fashion. So I've given you all the reasons. We're going to come up with the statements. So the first reason is given, so our statement just needs to be what was given to us, that angle 5 and angle 7 are vertical angles. Now once we write in the first statement, that given, we can also always add in that last statement, because the last statement is always going to be what we want to prove. Well, we want to prove that angle 5 is congruent to angle 7. So that's going to be our last one. Angle 5 is congruent to angle 7. So now we just have to fill in blanks 2 and 3. So blank 2, our reason is shown in the diagram. Well, what we were shown is exactly what we talked about earlier, is that we have linear pairs. So we have that angle 5 and angle 6 are a linear pair, and angle 6 and angle 7 are linear pairs. So then based off of that, we have our linear pair postulate. This linear pair postulate was also on that Unit 2 resource sheet, and it says if two angles are linear pairs, then they are supplementary. So we can say that angle 5 and angle 6 are supplementary, angle 6 and angle 7 are supplementary, and then that comes in that last one, that congruence supplements theorem that we just proved, that if two angles are supplementary to the same angle, they're both supplementary to angle 6, then those two angles are congruent. So that is the reason why vertical angles are congruent. That's all the notes I have for you. Go ahead and move into your practice.